Hello, this is Ceaseless Sunk here, and we're going to go over the HuK 20 Food Fast Expand for PvT. The HuK 20 Food Fast Expand is basically aimed at getting a very fast Nexus down and exploiting a time in which the Terran can't really punish you for it. Although, you spend, instead of like in a traditional 1 gate fast expand, you don't spend your chrono boost on a gateway to get more units out. You spend it on Warpgate research to get 3 or 4 Warpgates finished, and then you use those Warpgates to defend whatever aggression, if any, that the Terran is throwing at you. In this game, the Terran was not very aggressive earlier in the game. Instead, he attacked while taking a 3rd expansion, and after that, I proceed to out macro him and kill him with a lot of Colossi and Speed Zealots. Although I'll mostly be focusing on my opening this game, as that's what I'm aiming to teach you guys to do. So starting is the standard pylon, gateway, assimilator, pylon, cybercore, just like basically every other Protoss opening. But then here's where it deviates. You skip this zealot. You don't get it while your cybercore is finishing, you don't get it at all. And now you just build probes constantly until you have 20 probes, and then you lay down a Nexus, and then after your Nexus you chrono boost out a Stalker and your Warpgate research. Oftentimes look at the Warpgate research before putting the Nexus down just so I don't delay it. You want to try to avoid letting this SCV find you place your Nexus, and that's what I'm doing I think with this probe. Yep, this probe's escaping over here to go down and hide. This SCV does not know what's going on. So now, instead of placing the Nexus first, I've went ahead and modified this opening to my liking. I like to chrono boost out the Stalker and try to kill or chase away the SCV and then hide my Nexus. And then after that, I get 2 sentries, one right after each other. First one started right after the Stalker's finished, and this is actually what HuK has been doing recently. He doesn't get the Nexus at 20 anymore, even though it's called the 20 Food HuK expand. He's been getting a Stalker, then expanding, and then getting 2 sentries, and usually you place the sentries right over here, and what that'll do is protect you from a Reaper, and it's also nice. It's just nice to have the sentries up here in this area, because there's not really any threat down here for that portion of the game. So now, as you can see, I'm checking with this probe. I check all the way around the sides. I check everywhere for this SCV. SCV is nowhere in sight, so I go ahead and move the Stalker out into the middle of the map. And now this Stalker is pretty important. While excuse me. While this Nexus is going up, I'm going to be getting down 4 gateways. But this Stalker right here is actually going to be looking to see if he is building a Nexus down here, or not a Nexus, a command center not down here. It's also going to poke up the ramp and see what it can find. If there's a bunch of Marines, the Marine count off of 1 barracks, then he likely has a command center. If there's more Marines above the ramp, as in more that could come out of 1 barracks, then it could be a 2x expand, or it could possibly be a 1 base Banshee, going for Banshee tech or fast tank. It could be a 1 base all-in. Basically, you want to pop up the ramp and check out everything you can see. If you're not sure what to look for, go ahead and download a lot of replays off of StarCraft2Rep.com of PvT, and just take glances, speed through the replay, and just take note of what is able to be seen from a Protoss player. It'd probably be everything in this general area if they poke up the ramp. And then take a look at what their base looks like, and you'll get a general feel for what you will see here depending on what is back here, and that'll improve your game sense by quite a bit, and it'll also let you play a more reactive game, which is indeed a stronger game. So now I just poke up the ramp real quickly. All I see is a barracks. I didn't actually quite see this yet, so I'm going to poke up the ramp again momentarily. And since I didn't see anything with my Stalker, I probably should have just gone a little bit higher, and I would have seen the command center. But since I didn't see anything, I went ahead and canceled this gate and traded it for a robotics facility, and then put down my second assimilator so that I could have enough Vespian gas to support units out of 3 gateways and a robo. And I only have 3 gateways instead of 4 in a robo because I want to be producing probes to saturate this natural expansion. If I wanted to cut probes, say I knew he was going to 1 base all in me, I would have left this gate, would have had 4 gates and a robo, I would have been making a lot of zealots, immortals when I can, and then a good amount of sentries, and that's what I would use to just absolutely crush whatever one base island comes up here. Although, I cancel this gate, get my second assimilator, and proceed on with the game. And I'm going to use this stalker to once again try to find out what my opponent is doing. I'm looking to see if the command center is down here. Nope. Popped up the ramp, and luckily I saw the command center, so I knew he was just expanding. So I go ahead and start spending all my chrono boost on probes since I saw him expanding. And I'm likely going to get another gateway soon, start adding on immortals, and then when I feel comfortable, I'm going to go ahead and take an early third, because if you have immortals, sentries, stalkers, zealots, especially with the sentries, a good sentry count, you're pretty much safe from anything and you can take an early third. So now as you can see, I'm taking my third just before the 10-minute mark. And then this is actually when this guy decides to push. Usually people will wait for this factory. His factory seems to be a little bit late. Usually people will wait for this factory to finish and get starport and then 2 medevacs, and then run around the map with 2 medevacs and their stemmed army. But it looks like I snuck my probe out. And I'm taking my 4th just in time before this push. So this would have actually been about finishing when a normal push would come with 2 medevacs, and I would have had a lot more units and be able to definitely successfully hold that off. So now he comes up here, and I want to quickly note some of the micro I just did. I sped through it a little bit too quickly to actually show you the micro, so I'm going to go ahead and go back a little bit and slow it down just before the attack. And I think it's good to know how to do this. I force field a couple units. All of these zealots are going to be basically hitting these really cheap marines. There's not any of those more expensive marauders up there. So there's not really a reason for these zealots to be in range of all these units down here. So what I do is I quickly double click, or maybe I control clicked. I actually think in-game I control click, and then move them out of the way so that they don't die needlessly. And I'll pick off these cheap marines with my ranged units. You'll see that in a moment. It's very important. See, I just saved 300 minerals worth of zealots simply because I moved them out of the way of these ranged units down here. And then I accidentally lost the stalker unnecessarily. And I have an observer. I can see his army. I feel comfortable that I could just kill this army. So I go ahead and move down the ramp. I probably could have killed it better if these 3 stalkers were in the battle, but oh well, that was my mistake. And it's also important to have this observer in the base. I'm just checking around to see what tech there is. I see that he's going to be adding on this reactor and just getting medevacs. Since I know he's going for medevacs sometime soon, I'm going to add on Colossus. Because if he overmakes on medevacs and all of a sudden I have a bunch of Colossus, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And you'll see that's what ends up happening later in the game. Oops. So now I'm just saturating my 3rd and continually reinforcing this army of Immortal, Sentry, Stalker, Zealot. And I also lay this forge down so I can start on my upgrades. I got a couple cannons back here to help defend against drops, because I absolutely hate drops and getting charged. It's usually important to get charged before your stalkers, so that way you can spend a lot of minerals on zealots, make your zealots very useful in a battle, very powerful, and then you can spend your ever valuable Vespian gas on units like stalkers, upgrades, Colossus. You don't want to be spending all your gas on just stalkers and getting a blink. You can do that later on when you have more bases. You really need your Vespian to be spent into something else. So it's good to make a big bulk of your army very strong with cheap zealots. And that's exactly what I do here. So now I have these 2 observers, and I think I have 3? No, yep, nope, I only have 2 observers. I recommend getting a bunch of observers so that you can see what the hell's going on. Right over here is where his army's chilling out. And I knew a drop was, I was pretty sure a drop was going to happen. And I'm able to attack this area while the drop is going on, and do it pretty safely because I have these observers here and I can see what's going on. PvT and PvT, it's extremely important to have these observers all over the place, because the Protoss needs to be able to get into good positions to engage. Otherwise, they're going to just lose battles. So you can see here, I get a little bit ballsy and decide to just attack into the planetary fortress. I realize it's a planetary fortress and just back away. and I successfully defend against this medevac, and I think my attack kind of threw him off guard, and he just kind of let me kill his medevac full of marauders, and that's a really big hit. The game's pretty much mine. I have a lot of money, and so I begin throwing down 2 robotics facilities. I'm going for a robotics bay, and getting another base, warping in a ton of stuff to my gateways. Basically, I have more bases than him and more workers than him, so now I'm just going to be spending all my money, and then all of a sudden I'm going to get a lot of Colossus with these double robotics, and he's going to be continuing medevac production when you can see he has a lot of medevacs, because all he knows is that I have a bunch of immortals. And why would you need Vikings against immortals? And I think this game is lost by him, mostly because he had kind of poor worker saturation for a lot of the time, and these medevacs really needed to be Vikings. I'm going to go ahead and speed the game up a little bit, because the rest of it's basically me with a really big army moving across the map. And then all of a sudden I have a Colossus, I have superior upgrades, and there's not a whole lot he can do. I have a bunch of aces. I'm going to start taking this base down here. He almost picks a Colossus off, and then I get a great position to engage him, and I can do that because I can see where his army is with this observer, and now the game is pretty much mine. I'd say the most important thing to know about this build is that you want to try to hide your Nexus. If you can, you don't want the SCV to see it. A good way to do that is to, when the Cybercore finishes, Chrono, a Stalker, and Warpgate. Then you can chase the SCV away and lay down your Nexus. Then you'll have enough Vespene to order 2 subsequent sentries out of this first gateway, and you want to have, ideally you want to have 4 gates up, and then you can warp in a lot of units and be really aggressive. Although if you don't know what the opponent's doing and you don't see an expansion, you're probably going to just want 3 gates in a robo, maybe even 4 gates in a robo if you're really suspicious that it's going to be a 1 base all-in. And that is, I think, mostly what you need to know about the 20 food HuK expand, although now it's more like a 24 food HuK expand, just so it's a little bit safer. One last thing to note is this Dark Shrine. It's really great to add on the Dark Shrine once you have at least probably 3 bases. Sometimes even when you're taking your second base, it's great to add on this Dark Shrine, especially if you have a robotics facility, because this Dark Shrine and the robotics facility has great synergy between Warp Prisms and Dark Templar. I could have used Dark Templar to send over here. I could have tried to send one into these 2 mineral lines. I could deny an expansion here, deny an expansion here. I could have them in my army so that he constantly has to scan. DT tech is just really, really great to have, especially if you have the money for it. Usually have the money for it if you're on 3 or more bases. And there we have it, the HuK 20 food expand. If you liked this VOD, please tell me any of your thoughts or comments in the comment section below. If you like my content, great way to support me directly to help me get out more content is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also stream pretty often on teamliquid.net. I've been trying to stream more and more often to help create a fan base for myself and to help people learn and grow in their StarCraft 2 strategy skills. And my stream is at twitch.tv/CecilSuncure, so if you see me on Team Liquid streaming, be sure to check that out as well.